Assalamu alaikum. Rabbi Shrah li Siddiqui wa Yassir li Amri wa Uqdatan min Lisani yafqahu qawli. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. We start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and send peace and blessings upon His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for tonight, inshallah, I'm going to have a very quick Nasiha talk and kind of going over some of the general reminders that we can all take away for as we approach towards the middle of Ramadan and as we kind of wrap up the first 2 weeks. Inshallah, for the next 2 weeks, including the last 10 nights, we can take these reminders and kind of reflect and make sure that we kind of fix some of those habits that we're trying to change throughout the course of the month, inshallah. So for the first one that I kind of wanted to speak about is, and these are sort of some like tips and tricks towards like, fixing some of those bad habits during Ramadan. The first point of reflection is that, as you know, hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when Ramadan arrives, the gates of Jannah are open and the gates of Jahannam are locked up. What this means is that, as we know and as we're told, during Ramadan, shaitan is locked away. And so oftentimes when we're going through this month and we deal with some of that laziness or we deal with some of those problems, like you might miss Tarawih here and there, you might delay one of your prayers, you might start slacking with reading the Quran every day. All these different types of laziness that we sometimes experience, sometimes you ask yourself, why do I have this issue? Why am I being lazy when there is no shaitan telling me to do wrong? And the answer to that is a lot of times ourselves. It's our own nafs. It's what shaitan does with you throughout the 11 months of the year, where you have your heart is sort of hardened towards some of these things. That is what keeps you from practicing the way that you want to during the month of Ramadan. When many of us think that, with shaitan no longer there, we should be able to practice perfectly, 100% every single day. But a big point of realization is that it's your own nafs that's keeping you from doing that. And so how do we sort of counter this, and what are the ways in which we can make sure that we make the most out of this month is through discipline. And that's the bottom line answer to that, is that it's a matter of sort of ripping that Band-Aid off, right? A lot of times we think that when we have these bad habits before Ramadan, right, it's going to be it's going to be easy to sort of get rid of them throughout the month. But a lot of it is honestly ripping that Band-Aid. So a lot of it is taking the effort and having the discipline to remove those issues and remove those bad habits. And that's a very big point for us, is kind of dealing with ourselves and having that daily battle with it to ensure that we're on that right track for Ramadan, inshallah. And the next point is that, and having a sense of focus, right? And another thing that during the month of Ramadan, something that for many of us being, that we spend time with our family, a lot of times during the month of Ramadan, you're at or you're spending time with your family. That is the only time throughout the entire year where everyone is at our together. Right? Throughout the year, someone might be in school, there might be parents who are away from work, kids are busy with homework, kids are busy with sports, whatever it might be. Everyone is not in the same place at the same time, right? Everyone's busy, no one's in the same, everyone has a time to make each other at the same time. But now during the month of Ramadan, we all open our car at the same time. We're all together. Because we have to, right? That's the time that we're opening our doors. So this is a very big point for us, is how do we make the most out of this, right? If you're a parent, if you're a child, right, how do you make the most out of this month when you have this time you can spend with your family, going to Tarawih with your family, having a star, opening your fast together, right, doing your Qiyam prayers together. All these different things is opportunities to bond with your family. And that's what we're told in Islam, is that, more than just doing our own good deeds, more than just being righteous individually, we also come together as a family and help each other, right? If you're a child, you help your mother make the iftar. If you're a parent, you spend time with the children, right? At home, you make sure that you made time for them, given that you guys are all opening iftar together. And this is a big point for us in Islam, is how did the early generations of Islam, how did it spread so fast? It wasn't through harshness or through debates or through having a discourse, like having an argument or anything like that. It was through the characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ that people saw through his kindness and through his way of dealing with others. And so the same thing for ourselves in this month, where we have the opportunity to be around each other, where the community all comes together every single day in large groups, is we make the most out of that. And a big form of ibadah is that form of kindness, where you spend time among each other, where you help each other out, making iftar for your neighbors, right? A big, in a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ says that if you provide someone for iftar, you share their reward as well as them also keeping it. But this is a huge way for us to get easy ibadah, right? You spend time, you have fun, you enjoy the month, but at the same time, you don't forget what you're doing it for. You don't forget that it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's a huge way to get that form of ibadah, is having that. And another thing, another hadith of Prophet ﷺ during this month, he says that fasting is a shield. And when any of you is fasting on a day, he should neither indulge in obscene language nor raise his voice. Rather, if anyone reviles him or quarrels with him, he should say, I am fasting. This gives us a guideline for how we should be dealing with people and our temperament during this month, right? We should have a demeanor that is kind, that is nice, that is approachable, right? Someone who is refraining from showing anger, someone who is refraining from bad language, refraining from idle talk. That is the way that the Sahabas would spend their Ramadan. And so for us, that is a huge example of how we should behave throughout this month and how we should act towards towards the people that we're close to. The next point is, and this is probably the most important one that I wanted to reflect on, is throughout the month of Ramadan, we should be making sacrifices. A big thing that Ramadan has sort of become now, that we have sort of made it into, is almost a month of celebration, right? Like you have these very big iftars, very large scale iftar, like you spend the entire day without food and water, then you open it with a very large meal. A lot of times we go and we hang out with our friends after Tarawih, we do all these different things, and that's fine within the balance. But at the same time, the month of Ramadan is about making sacrifices. It's about being uncomfortable. It should be difficult. Many of us, we lose sleep throughout the month of Ramadan. We can't sleep the full 8 hours a night. We have to wake up for suhoor. Then many of us go to work the next day. Then you have Tarawih late at night and Qiyam prayers. All these different things. You lose a lot of sleep. And that's a form of sacrifice that you have. And you get rewarded for that sacrifice. So we should rather be, accepting of the fact that this is a difficult month to be in. This is going to make us uncomfortable, but there is a reward in that. There's a barakah in being uncomfortable, making that sacrifice. And so for us, of course, within having that balance, it's good to have, enjoy that company, like I said earlier, but also knowing that this is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that we're doing is for that sake, even if it might make us uncomfortable. Many times throughout the month of Ramadan, especially for the younger guys, you kind of sleep throughout most of the day because you're staying up at night, or things of this nature, but we have to make the most out of it. Even though sometimes we come to Tarawih prayers, for example, or we go to Qiyam, but we might delay or miss our mandatory prayers. So making sure that we're making all the correct sacrifice, that's an important way of making the most out of this month, inshallah. And so an example from the time of the Sahabas, it's narrated that the Sahabas used to prepare 6 months before the month of Ramadan. So 6 months before, they used to make dua that they would be able to practice the month of Ramadan. And then 6 months after Ramadan, they used to make dua that it would be accepted, right? So kind of comparing to ourselves where, throughout the month, subhanAllah, we're already 2 weeks. We're pretty much at the middle of it. We have another 2 weeks, and after that, we have to wait 11 months for the next Ramadan. They used to prepare 6 months before, and they used to spend 6 months asking for it to be accepted afterwards. That is a level of sacrifice, that is a level of dedication that we need to strive for. And that we need to make sure that during this month, we are just as focused in our own practices as they were. And so one of the other examples that I wanted to give was, and sort of sharing some of that sacrifice that many of the earlier Sahabas used to practice. During the time of when Islam was first spreading, Usman ibn Affan, radiallahu anhu, him and the other Sahabas, they were told to migrate to Abyssinia. This was when the Muslims were being prosecuted very heavily in Makkah. And so many of these earlier Muslims, they had to make the sacrifice to migrate and had to leave their families behind, their loved ones behind, their businesses behind, their wealth behind. Many of them, they didn't know if they were going to see their families again. They didn't know if they were going to see the Prophet ﷺ again. But they made this sacrifice regardless. Why? Because it would allow them to practice Islam freely. The same thing comes for us, right? During this month, we have commitments. Many of us, we go to school, right? We have many classes. Many of us, we work 40 hours a week at least. Many of us longer than that. We have these other commitments, but it's about making that sacrifice so that you can practice Islam freely, and that you can make the most out of this month and make the most out of Ramadan. And the last thing is, as we approach the last 10 nights, anything that you might have been weakened in the first 2 weeks, strive to counter that. Whether it's giving more in the last 10 nights, whether it's making sure that you make every Tarawih prayer, make sure you pray your 5 daily prayers, all these different things, within the last 10 nights, any room for improvement, make sure that you strive for that. And with that, I will end off the talk, and inshallah, everyone can take some benefit this month, and may Allah make it easier for all of us. Ameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr.